Welcome back guys, another NVM vlog, and in this vlog we won't be vlogging this car, we're vlogging this car here. Needs no introduction. 2019 M2 competition S55 engine, straight 6 twin turbo, 410 horsepower, 550 newton meters from the factory. Obviously we're not here to compare it to the old M2, which is the N55 single turbo. Obviously this is our M2 NVM. If you ain't seen their other vlogs, make sure you go back and check them now. 628 horsepower, 860 newton meters, an absolute monster, but literally on its limit, and there is nothing more that we can do to gain any more power from that vehicle. So our new project is the S55, far superior. It's a closed deck block, obviously got twin turbos, so slightly less heat generated from the turbos itself. It runs a charge cool system, so we get quite good consistency. We will be covering stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 tuning on this vehicle, but what we're going to do today, take a full backup of the ECU, full diagnostic, strap it in the dyno, see what it runs as standard, and then take it from there. I do like the M4 style wing mirrors and the M4 seats. They look absolutely amazing, but they're not that comfortable to sit in compared to the original ones. We've got M Performance steering wheel on here. There's obviously digital red fluid, travel lock system, and we've got digital display, so we can keep an eye on coolant temperatures, oil temperatures. Interior is pretty much the same as the old M2 N55. But as you can probably hear, it's lacking something. So we definitely got to sort that out. So guys, we've taken a full backup of the ECU, did a full diagnostics. We're just going to do a couple of data logs on the dyno, so we've got full data of how the car's performing. And it is quite cool today. It's about 14 degrees in the cell temperature, so it'll be a good indication as to how the car performs. We're watching stuff like the intake manifold pressure, the charge pipe pressure, the timing, the knock, and all of that to build up some sort of view on what the car is and how the car is running. So guys, a few back-to-back results, and we're at completely standard horsepower, 409 brake horsepower, 570 newton meters of torque. So all in all, a healthy power run, nice flat torque curve, nice flat power curve at the top. Just going to have a look at the data log and show you the differences between the M2 competition, the reason for that 410 horsepower, and the difference compared to M4 competition. A lot of talk on the internet as to why the M2 competition runs 410 horsepower, comparable to the M3 and M4 comp and non-comps running a lot more. And in data logging terms, I can probably explain it a bit better. So this is the actual power run that we just did on the vehicle, on the dyno. If we follow it from 2,500 RPM, you can see this yellow line at the top is your throttle pedal. So the S55 is known to not allow full throttle within the ECU until about 5,500 RPM, and that's still apparent on the competition, although it's a newer car. The car is equipped with GPF, but we're not going to talk about the GPF in comparison today. We're literally talking about the targets that make the power on the vehicle. So I don't know if you guys can see there, there's a green line that says fuel target, and basically the car desired load is based upon its full throttle pedal, and you know, at peak it hits kind of 170 fuel target. It then drops off to about 140 at about 7,000 RPM, and these cars make peak power between, you know, 6,500 to 7,000 RPM, and slightly less sometimes as well. And the reason for that is it targets 1 bar of boost pressure constantly, but it requires a set amount of load to fulfill that. So lower down in the rev range, where the wastegate duty cycle is going to be higher to spool up, it literally closes the throttle body to compensate for any overboost within the ECU. Again, this is the same as the M3 and M4. So I'll give you an example. Here is an M3, totally stock as well. Same boost target, 1 bar of boost, same initial fill target. But as you can see, as you go through the rev range, the fill target carries on to about 170 to 160 at 7,000 RPM, and that literally is where your 10 to 20 horsepower difference is. I mean, the comp versions do make about 430 to 440 brake horsepower, and that's purely down to the fuel target. So if you have a look at the ignition timing at peak, if I get it into focus, is about 10 to 11 degrees around peak power, and again 10 to 11 degrees around peak power on the M2 competition. So timing is still the same, fueling still running 200 bar of fuel pressure and still running similar lambdas. If anything, the lambda target on the M2 competition is slightly richer, and are purely down to the GPF and the petrol particle filter. So that gives you an insight as to what the difference is. I mean, we can pull up the ECU data and the calibration and show you the infinite differences, but it's purely down to boost and fill, so load target itself. So the boost target is pretty much the same. It's just the fill target, which is what the ECU determines to create the boost based upon its acceleration and torque, is slightly less. And you can probably just see that within the actual boost line there. So the intake manifold and the charge pressure, you'll see it peaks at about 5,500 RPM, and then it slowly reduces the boost, and that is comparative to the actual fuel target. Whereas on the M3 and M4, fuel target stays up and boost climbs right to the top, so it allows for about 1.2 bar of boost, whereas on the red line on the M2 competition, it literally is less than 0.95 bar of a boost. And that's purely down to probably the manufacturers knowing the limitations and not making a car more powerful than the M3, M4 at the time of release, and also down to the GPF and drivability and emissions, etc. So, hope I didn't bore anyone with that, but it's a good insight as to why they differ in power. So guys, that's the major differences between the M2 competition and the M3 and M4, all in the ECU. The actual engine itself, the head block and sump, and all the ancillaries are pretty much the same, and that's what allows for 700 to 800 horsepower without any concerns. The crank hub has been fixed on this, but there are a few concerns that we're not happy with. First and foremost, the exhaust note. We've definitely got to do something about that. We've got some special parts coming in for intakes, downpipes, charge pipes, and the lot, to be fair. So make sure you guys like the video, comment below what you think of the new project, and I'll see you in the next one. Do you think I'm addicted to blue? About the differences all day about this.